are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our special Behind the Geeks episode for Disney and Pixar's Elemental. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. And joining me for this Behind the Geeks episode, he's just a big old pile of dirt. He's Justin, the juicy tomato-loving Lawrence.
I actually don't like tomatoes. I will...
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
It's weird. We've been friends for so long and we've never discussed tomatoes.
Well, like I think it's been something that's naturally happened as I've gotten older. I think in either other episodes I've talked about how food can sometimes have a weird reaction. Tomatoes is definitely one of them. So
yeah.
Even when I order pizza now, still love my pizza. I gotta either go sauceless or just light sauce. Just because I'll get that far. Acid reflex, man. Yeah,
it's the acidity of the tomato.
Exactly.
See, for me, like, I love the things that tomatoes bring to us as humans. You know, pasta sauce. I love pizza sauce. If you get a good pizza sauce, even salsa, which is essentially chopped up tomatoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. But straight up tomatoes and me just don't get along. I think it's a texture thing. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's probably the skin on the outside, but I love a good pico de gallo. Salsa is salsa, but pico de gallo, that is some fine Mexican cuisine right there, let me tell you. So
good stuff. But enough about tomatoes, Justin.
You think I don't know if that's what talk about tomatoes.
That's welcome to the Tomato Podcast. But can you let our lovely listeners know? I mean, we always do this every single time. We pretend like they don't know, even though they clicked on the thing.
They know why they're here. They know why they're here.
Who is joining us on the podcast today?
Well, today we are joined by Peter Sohn, director of the upcoming Pixar and Disney film Elemental. If you don't know his history, Peter's been with Pixar for almost 20 years, or 23 years, actually. And he has humble beginnings. I think he started as I believe, an illustrator. I kind of get his story mixed up with Domichi's, but I know that they both started on a very entry level. I know one of the first projects he was working on was Finding Nemo, and he has since then scaled up over those 23 years. His directorial debut was The Good Dinosaur, and he has been involved in Ratatouille and all the movies under the Pixar umbrella. And he's now creative VP at Pixar. So it's pretty wild to see. But our friends at Disney Studios Canada hosted a lovely panel at TIFF Lightbox here in Toronto, and they invited Peter out. Before we saw a presentation from Peter, we actually got to watch 30 minutes of the movie in different parts. So we saw the intro. We saw, I believe, the introduction of there's a moment where Ember meets Wade's parents. We also saw some of the more intimate moments that we would see as they kind of grow their relationship. So it gave us a real breath of what to anticipate coming June. And here we are, June. This movie's coming out tomorrow. But then after, Peter came out and he did a full-on panel for the audience at TIFF Lightbox, talking about the behind the scenes, talking about what went into making Ember, what went into making Wade, the idea that they had to engineer new technology and new processes. Was outstanding. He had this great chart that showed the natural progression from movie to movie, from their top movies of their computing. And when it got to Elemental, it was way off the charts. It's like that moment in the Simpsons movie when Lisa's trying to make that point about pollution and she gets skyrocketed into the thing. It just went up there. So much time and energy and just creative energy went into bringing this movie to life. And he was so kind to bring behind the scenes stills, rough drawings, all of this great stuff. And I think what was really nice is that Peter just gave everyone the time to really share what he loves. And he talked about the team that was behind this movie so lovingly. He is Wade. Like there's a point in the panel where Mariska Fernandez, the host of the panel, she asks, which character do you relate to? And he says, well, I'd love to be like Ember, but I'm more of a Wade guy. And I could totally see it. And after that, I was invited to sit down with Peter Sohn for 10 minutes to talk about this movie. And I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite interviews that I've had the opportunity to do. And it has everything to do with who Peter Sohn is. He is so genuine and so real, so down to earth. And he's just someone that is like so passionate. And he just gave so much of his time to sit down with me and answer my questions. And share more about why he loved making this movie and the energy behind it. So a huge thanks to our friends at Disney Studios Canada for setting this up. It really means a lot to have been invited to have this time with Peter. So very grateful, very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I hope Pixar will continue to do. Like, you know, I'd love if when their next project is released, like if we get more of these sort of deep dives with these directors, because I think it's one of those things where, again, it's as a critic, it's easier to understand and even critique the movie when you want sort of understand how it was made a little bit. You know, you can kind of come in there a little bit with a different perspective.
I also think that there's a real strength and strategy for reaching out to Toronto specifically as sort of its own elemental city. Its own city of diverse culture, its own city of seeing cultures mix and mingle.
Absolutely. And I hope we all get to, next time, don't plan it during a Star Wars celebration next time. But anyways, without further ado, please enjoy our interview with Peter Sohn.
Peter, my name's Justin. Thank you so much for joining us on the Geekcentric podcast. It means a lot.
Justin.
After watching today's footage, it's clear Elemental has the heart of a Pixar movie. And it's very imaginative. It's vibrant. And extremely relatable too, I find.
That's great. Well, I hope so.
I honestly got emotional at some of the moments. You're being credited as also the writer of the story as well. How have those personal experiences and even some of the themes in your own life influenced this story?
It's a wild thing because it's not an autobiography. Like obviously there's this fantasy film, but making any kind of art, it all gets in there, purposefully or not. But there's a couple elements that were very purposeful in the seeds of this thing. One of them being this idea of like marrying someone or dating someone that wasn't part of my culture. Like my parents wanted me to marry someone Korean. I did not. And it just created so much crazy stuff that like you were mining from. But it wasn't just me. It was also part of the crew. There were so many members of the crew that had gone through these same experiences. Not exactly, but all. And they were all bringing themselves to it and then trying to create a space that's safe enough so that everyone can put their full selves into the work was a big priority. And I'm so proud of and grateful and also protective of like, thank you for giving what you gave, and so that was the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's a very relevant story that needs to be told. And I enjoy the way the elements are used as sort of an allegory to talk about diversity and the sort of collective behavior. You can be stronger together.
Yes,
right?
yes,
so, you were saying you've been at Pixar for 23 years. Yeah. You started in art and story, and I think this is a story that has been celebrated throughout Pixar for multiple filmmakers. Yeah. I know Toronto's own Nomi she started as a storyboard artist.
Yes.
And is now, like yourself, creative VP, consulting on films and being a creative decision maker. I wanted to know, how do you think the culture of Pixar has shaped your growth and development as a filmmaker?
That is such a huge question, Justin. Geez, every aspect of working with creative folks you look up to, that you learn from. You're helping new people come up, meaning from the breadth of each step. Like for example, Ratatouille, the idea of anyone can cook. That's not just a little saying from the movie. Mm-hmm. It's a philosophy that I have seen at Pixar of like a good idea or anything can come from anyone and anywhere. Right. And so like when you're in the studio, when we show the movie to everyone, the notes just come in from everybody. And there's like, oh, that's a great note. And it's not just about like, oh, this is my job title or whatever. That idea of giving something that's going to help a movie, it just really enriches the whole process. It's such a big question, Justin. No, I know. It's so many layers to it.
I think for me, the way I always look at Pixar is that it's a family. Yeah. And that they really do work together. Yeah. And I think Pixar wants to hear everyone's voice,
Yeah.
and give everyone that opportunity. I
Yeah.
think that's really great.
But I mean, these later years, I mean, there's been so many new diverse point of views that have been really exciting. And there's more movies to come
Yep.
that are not just about like another journey. It's continuing relationships, continuing connections, what kind that can be made, what truths can we live in, and there's just so much to mine from,
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The animation and the world development is absolutely stunning. And I think,
Thank you.
again, you guys have hit it out of the park as a collective team.
Yeah.
And there's such a balance between, fresh and new and
Yeah.
what still feels familiar to
Yeah.
Pixar. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what design choices your team made to sort of feel fresh and new while still inherently keeping that sort of Pixar look and feel.
Yeah, the idea of trying to create a character that's moving constantly was already a challenge in itself because there was no pipeline for it. We had never done that, so there was new technology that had to be made for it. But even with the new technology, trying to find a style of a design was something that we couldn't really pinpoint an answer to until years later.
Right.
Meaning we were just throwing ideas into a big black hole. You didn't know what it was amounting to, and then all of a sudden this thing was born out of it. You're like, oh my goodness, that's what she is. And using the current technology that we had got us to a certain distance. But then there was Disney Research Group came. Paul Kaniak, one of our TD's technical directors, discovered this new technology from Disney that could take simulations and put graphic shapes into them in a 3D form that was sort of machine learning that was so brand new that they were only telling us like you could only get these in a couple shots or with a couple characters. But that team just kept cooking it until we could get it on everywhere. But it's that spirit that, of taking a challenge and then making it great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, again, like some of the footage, the behind the scenes footage, the sort of tests that you showed at today's panel, it was really interesting and enlightening to see how many iterations you go through to really settle on what a look will be. And I can totally relate to the idea of just hitting those iterations, wanting to do your best work collectively.
It's scary though, Justin.
I know.
It really is, because you never know if you're going to hit it. I like where Ember's at now, but we just didn't know what she was going to look like for so long.
Right, and Wade, like you said in the panel, Wade was a difficult one to kind of nail.
Yeah, Wade
right?
was impossible.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's water's tricky from what I've heard. Now, you're not only a filmmaker who works behind the scenes, but you've lent your voice to a variety of characters in the Pixar universe, Socks obviously being your most recent one from Lightyear. Have those experiences influenced the way you approach character animation and the direction you can give, even from working with voice actors?
Yeah, I think, that's a great question. Understanding what it means to be vulnerable and what trust in a room means. A lot of the times we don't give our scripts out way in advance.
Right.
And so some of these performers are seeing these scripts for the first time live in the recording room when we're recording. And you can feel when someone gets clenched or and when someone is really open. And doing scratch or voice work, that's one of the main lessons that I've learned, is trying to make that bed of trust so that the performer can give what they need to give.
Spoken like a true director. I love that. I love that. Speaking of being a director, and you have a great team. You've talked at great lengths about the work that everyone's put into this movie to get it to where it is. For yourself, though, given that you've had so many different roles within Pixar, do you find yourself still like hands-on in certain areas, or is it always now? Are you letting go? Are you just about the collaboration?
I think that was an Achilles heel of mine for sure. You're tapping on it right there, Justin, was that like there are things that I could not let go, meaning I was in the trenches a lot in terms of trying to get designs going. It's just that that's a form of communication for me, is to draw something out. And so I used it maybe too much, but it was something that I did use.
Yeah, I think anyone can relate to that, especially given the labor of love that this movie is definitely. There is obviously so much to be proud of with this movie, and I again, hearing you talk about it so lovingly, it shows.
Thank you so much, Justin.
No worries, man. If there was anything that you could specifically pinpoint that you're specifically proud of, what would that be?
That the crew is proud. I know you're saying that I keep hammering it, but they gave gifts like every hour, every meeting that you would go to, there would be a gift of like, here's a bit of my talent, here's a bit of my experience, and I don't know how to thank it, just because, and what they gave. I hope they're proud of the work that they've done, but That's where my pride
Well,
lies.
it sounds like there's a sense of sincerity there, and they
Yeah.
surprised you. They surprised and delighted you.
Yes,
in
all the
many
time.
ways, right?
Yeah.
So, well, listen, it's clear that this is a Pixar movie. Elemental is a Pixar movie in more ways than one. And like many Pixar movies, there's always a strong message,
Yeah.
and a message that is relatable and very relevant, like I was saying before. What message would you hope, or do you hope, that audiences would take away?
Boy, I mean, like, I want to have a fun time in the theaters. That's like the major thing that having these element characters that do these crazy things was one aspect that we had a lot of fun and a lot of pride in building. But ultimately, when I got lost or when I was having a tough time with the story, the North Star for me was just the simple idea of gratitude and being thankful for the sacrifices that our parents had made for us, or anyone in your loved life that took a risk to, help you out in something. That idea was something that resonates throughout the whole film. And if people walk away, being grateful for something like that, I'll be a happy man.
Yeah. Well, Peter, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Justin.
And watching the footage was an absolute delight. And just to say, I always believe that filmmakers who put their love into the films, it comes off the screen and it jumps into the audience.
I
And
hope so.
I can definitely feel that from watching this, just these moments of Elemental. So I really appreciate you taking the time coming to Toronto to see all of us here. So really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Justin.
And we're back, Justin. You weren't kidding, man. This guy is so incredibly lovely.
I wanted to invite him to go get a pizza
let's
or
go to a
grab
barbecue
beer. Yeah,
with this guy,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah,
Like,
you know what I mean? I was just
so
like, this
nice.
guy is so cool, and I'm just so grateful to have 10 minutes with him. You know, when we've done these interviews, it's very much like let's get in, let's get the questions. Let's definitely try to have a very engaging conversation, but let's use the most of 5 minutes. And with 10 minutes in person, it was a delightful experience. It felt a little more casual. I'm always a little apprehensive or nervous with these things, but it was great how vulnerable and endearing Peter was. It kind of made me relax.
Well, I love one of the things that I really enjoyed watching it back was, which you can watch it back at youtube.com/geekcentric if you want to see these guys' lovely faces and all the smiles. But, I think one of the things I really enjoyed was the fact that every time he would respond to you, for the most part, he used your name. You know what I mean? He would say, "Oh, Justin, that's such a good question," or, those sort of things. And I think that just adds to the authenticity of this guy who he's not just there to do an interview. He's there to get to know the people who are about to, sort of talk about his masterwork, if you will, right? Like, this is, he's been in Pixar movies. He's been the voice of characters in Pixar movies, right?
Yeah.
He's Socks.
Yeah.
But he's himself. He's in a Pixar movie. If that makes sense. His spirit is in this movie.
I couldn't agree more. And that is what the closing sentiments I had about when a filmmaker loves and puts so much love into something. I really do believe that leaps off the screen and touches the audience. And it's so true. Even though I saw 30 minutes of the footage at the time, it was clear that there was such a love and appreciation that went to putting this movie together. And it leaps off the screen, man. It hits you right in the heart. So he was incredibly genuine and authentic, like you said, with his responses. I appreciated it.
And I mean, way to hit him with the huge question of how does the culture at Pixar shape him as a filmmaker?
Well,
I was like, did they have
job.
20 minutes for this interview?
No,
or
but
just...
he did a good job. I think he talked about what I was thinking. It's the people.
Yeah,
right? Like
anyone can cook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
I love
it's
that.
the ideas that everyone's bringing ideas to the table. Do you know what I mean? And everyone has a voice. And I absolutely love that. I think that it's almost a nicer way of asking, like, well, why have you stayed at Pixar for so long? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously a reason. And I think it for him to take a moment to reflect and really realize that, like, that development, his growth has a lot to do, not just with him being proactive with his career, but it's the people around him and the people he gets to work with.
Well, and it's dope to hear, he mentioned their TD, Paul Kanyak, who discovered new technology to use machine learning. And I think that's one of those things where we think of, AI, it's such a big topic of, it's everyone's talking about it. And it very much oftentimes is pitted as an enemy to artists. Whereas here we're hearing about
It's leveraging.
how they're leveraging the use of that technology to bring characters like Ember and Wade to life. And to hear the fact that they started off with only being able to do a few shots, but their spirit and their tenacity pushed them to say, no. This is the whole movie. We're going to have these characters in every single scene, and maybe more than one of them need to be animated this way. It's just so impressive, and it's just one of those things that, again, that's where we expect, that's what we expect from Pixar.
No, and I think that's, again, like you said, it's the ingenuity of Pixar to go beyond and push the boundaries. You can see in every frame how they're just pushing the boundaries. Technology is literally being invented, right?
Yeah.
As they're making this movie. And that's like, that's what, Steve Jobs always talked about, the intersecting point of science and arts. And like this is what it is, right?
Yeah, art and technology. It's that crossroads.
It's that crossroads. Yeah.
And again, I think it's the fact that I love at the end there with his ultimate goal, his North Star of being grateful for the sacrifices made by either your parents or the people in your life that have helped you through something you struggled through. It's beautiful. I mean, I was literally, I cried during the movie. I almost cried watching this interview.
I cried after. I will on the record just say I was just teary-eyed because I was so grateful for the opportunity to sit with him, but I'm also just so grateful for what he shared.
Yeah.
Right. So, again, not to get emotional about it. It was a really enjoyable experience, and he is just such a genuine guy. I love him. It's great.
Man, makes me want to find a way to go to Pixar. I want to go to the studio. It looks so cool.
I would love to. I would definitely travel all the way out there just to do a studio tour and just, again, just to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
You hear so much about what the culture's like there, and, given the appreciation that we have for collaboration and teamwork and all that stuff, it'd just be great to see that in its full beauty. Kind of.
I wonder if they do public tours. We should see if they do public tours.
Maybe
Anyways, that is it for this Behind the Geeks episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe here on your podcast service of choice, or over on YouTube at youtube.com/Geekcentric. You can see the lovely smiles of these two guys just vibing. They were just vibing all over the place. Our full spoiler-free review is out now, which you can listen to, and we just gushed about it like water. And we also have our Discord open if you want to chat with us about this interview, and we are going to be opening up a spoiler-filled discussion channel in the Discord when this movie comes out in theaters. I can't wait to talk about all the little details in it and all the things that made us smile and cry. But Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this delightful, like capital D delightful Behind the Geeks episode. And as we say, love ya.
Peace.